Welcome back to Harmon Homestead Ranch. So it is early Wednesday morning, March the 19th, and I'm out here in the sunshine. So I'm gonna pull down these shades. I just talked to you guys, but I wanted to say hello first of all. I've had wind chimes up, but I took them all down. I've tried to film this several times, but they're just clanking and dangling. I love the sound, but it can be distracting in a video. So I hope you all are doing good. I just want to sit and talk with you on this video. Our chicken eggs are doing well. I still don't have any pips. They're sitting in the incubator on lockdown. Today's day 20. We should have pips by tonight, with little baby chicks hatching out of the eggs. I had a question that I want to address, and hopefully this will help this person. It was on one of our YouTube shorts, calling all Georgia homesteaders. Now, we're in Alabama, but I did these shorts for all different states like Missouri, Mississippi, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Iowa, and I was just trying to grow the homesteading community last year, and a person responded on there. They saw the short and they said, look, I've got several questions here, and I hope that person's watching this because I'm doing this video for them. They said, what do we need to do to start homesteading? They said, we're city folk, we're scared to death. Me and my family are moving to Georgia. That's our #1 top place, or we're trying to move to Georgia, and we're scared that people won't accept us. We don't know what to do. Where do we start? So I'm going to give you my own personal advice on what I would do to begin homesteading. Some tricks of the trade that I've learned along the way. This has been a very tough journey from somebody that, didn't grow up around this. So let me tell you my experience. So the first thing is, if you are moving, they said they're from the city and it's the whole family. Okay. I would find good rural land if you're wanting to farm. You know that, okay? You want good land. You need it flat. That's what I would recommend. Now, you see people online all the time, including me, that will farm on a hillside. That's because we have no choice. The most optimal land would be flat to plow, okay? Even a backyard garden, you want it flat. If you can't get flat, then you get into raised beds and such, or terracing, things like that. You can plant on a slope of some kind, but if you're buying land and you're putting forth the money and you have the option, go with flat, okay? Next thing, when you get that land, I would make sure that there's a running water source on it of some kind. If I had my choice, I would want it to be near a creek, because you may get into cattle, things of that nature. Okay, that's what we're getting into now. You may want something like that. However, that is a double-edged sword. That's a problem because it can flood. That's the problem we have, is nearby the creeks flood. So there's beautiful flat fertile land around it. Even a branch. If you're not familiar with this, a creek is a creek. Okay, it's smaller than a river. A branch is even smaller. It may be wide as a small front porch. The problem is it can flood easily. The smaller the area, the easier it is to flood. So all this good fertile land around it, it can flood, and that's not good for crops. It's not good for animals either. So try to get something flat, but make sure that it's not in a flood zone. We're not in a flood zone, but the problem is it still floods. Okay, so don't go off those rules and regulations. Just know that if it's down in a valley, if it's near a creek, it's probably going to flood. Okay. Next thing, the person said, me and my family are moving. I don't know if it's you, your spouse, children, parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters. I have no clue. But if you are moving with family to homestead, this is going to be my piece of advice. I would still try to get some land of my own. That's what I personally would do in my name that no one could take from me. That's what I would do, because you just never know what's going to happen down the road. People pass on, people want to sell stuff, yada, yada, yada. You just don't know. Things may fall apart. So I would make sure that it was mine and no one could take it. That's just what I would do. Okay. Everybody may be gung-ho into this right now and want to go homestead with you if it's your whole family, but it may go south quick, and then they may not like it, but you may love it, and then y'all are all invested in this together. I don't know. You just have to think of every worst case scenario. I know a lot of times families will think that land will be there forever, and it's not. People pass, people move on, people want to sell and usually get out of it. That's what happens. So I would be very cautious with that. You know, as generations move on and time moves on. There's not a lot of people out in the country anymore. There's not. People have moved to the cities. Now, a lot of people want to go to the suburbs, but that's a different animal than being way out in the sticks and no man's land, okay? We are in a prime location. We're 15 minutes from the nearest city. The city's small, but we're way away, you know, enough to where we don't have any neighbors pretty much. If we do, you know, you can see them to the next mountainside or hillside. So it's not up close on you. You need to find land that is secluded and you can do your own thing. That's what I personally would do. And when you're looking for land and you're touring it, I would, this sun is getting warm. There's no shade on this property. There's none. There's one tree and a magnolia tree. That's it. There is no, it's just up on a hill, and I've lived in a tank top every day up here. Even if it's cold, because the sun is just unrelenting. But anyways, you need to see, when you're riding around looking for property, you need to see what your neighbors are about if it's rural. If they have a lot of animals, and what I mean by that is just when you're driving by, do you notice animals? Do you notice cows? If you're wanting to get into a huge cattle operation, I don't know if I'd be doing it if my next door neighbor had tons of cows. You see what I'm saying? You can do it too, but that gets into competition and everything else. That's just me personally, what I would be looking at. I would look at what kind of space is set up on my property. Can you have chicken pens? If you're going to Homestead and you're moving out of the city, you're probably going to end up with chickens. That's the gateway animal. Is there a place to put coops? Is there a place to build gardens? Is there a place to have, is there a fence? That's a huge bonus. Is there a fence on this property? Will you have to build a fence? If you get goats, hogs, horses, cows, I'm sure I'm missing some guys, donkeys, you will need a fence. You will have to have it. So need to be looking and seeing if you have that on the property, what kind of shape it's in. Is it worth building one? Is it worth repairing? Well, you need to tear it down completely. Need to be looking at those kinds of things. Is there power on this property? You may just be looking at random land. Is there water? Is there well access? Need to be looking at that. A well is great. A well it's just great in my opinion. You may be different, but do you have an option for city water? Do you have an option for a well? Do you have both? What is it? A lot of people will go look at land and it'll be out in the middle of nowhere, and it's going to be a lot of money to get water and power established. Power, not so much, but water, running water lines to get on city water is tough. That's when you start looking into a well. There again, I don't know how secluded you're wanting to be. And guys, there again, this property has a well on it. My last property had a well on it at some point in time. It's on city water now, but again, we're only 15 minutes from the nearest city. So you may have these options and it not be just so rural, okay? That's what I would be looking into as far as my land. I would look for stuff like shade. See, what I'm into now is with a lot of animals, I don't have a shaded place. So we're going to have to get shade cloths, tarps. We're going to see if the garden will do well in this in the summer, because I don't know. It may get scorched up here. I have no clue. Need to be looking at those kinds of things. Now, here's just some tidbits of advice, okay? The person seemed very concerned that people wouldn't accept them. You could live your whole life on property and never meet your neighbors, okay? I've been down here for years. I never speak to mine, okay? That's just the way it is. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. We just don't communicate, okay? That's everybody kind of likes to be into themselves. You may want to be best friends with your neighbors, okay? And you could reach out to them and such. They may not want that. A lot of people that's moving to rural areas, especially from the city, that I've seen in my location, they stay to themselves. It's like they've gotten out of the hustle and bustle and they want to be left alone. They're nice in passing. They'll throw their hand up, but that's it, okay? I don't even know their names, a lot of them. That's totally fine. That's probably why they came here to begin with. You may want to be more included in things. If you are, I probably would stick closer to the city. I would be looking at something like that, like doing backyard gardening in the suburbs. That's what I personally would do. If you do that, you need to make sure that you're wherever you so choose, if it's in a subdivision, that you can do these kind of things in your backyard, that you can grow vegetables and such. A lot of HOAs, may forbid you from doing that. They may tell you you can't put anything but clear Christmas lights up in the winter. That's why I live in the country. I don't want to be told what to do, okay? And I'm not going to pay somebody to tell me what to do. So that's why I do best out here, out in no man's land, okay? You may want something like that. It just depends. You may live out rural and have neighbors 5 minutes away and y'all may be best buds. You need to try to grow the community. I think your heart's in the right place. I think that's the best thing. Now, I know a lot of mine, if I called them in the middle of the night, they would come running. But we just kind of stay to ourselves is what I'm saying. But, some may not, and that's okay. You're going to have to get independent. And you're going to have to not worry about what people think about you. I've learned that the hard way. I worried for years what people thought about me, and that was probably the wrong attitude to have, especially to start a YouTube channel. You shouldn't worry about what people think anyways. You should only worry about doing what's right. But if you are worried about being accepted, I'm going to give you the cold, hard truth. You're probably not going to be. This is not popular. It has picked up popularity, especially with a lot of housewives. Housewives, somebody has tried to make housewives great again. That is a thing. Homeschooling, they've tried to do that. They have tried to increase this, okay? And I have no trouble with that. I think it's great, to be honest. Now, what I mean by housewife is like me. I've got other things going on at home. I've got my garden. I have a full-time job here on top of YouTube, on top of animals, on top of canning, on top of gardening. And it got to a point where I couldn't do it all at once. I already had an ace in the hole, as they say, before I came out of working a full-time job and multiple part-time jobs. And now I'm in the position where I don't have to do any because I've got so much going on here. If you just quit your job and stay at home, now that's without having any other backup, I would not advise that. I did this for years before I left my job. And it's tough. Like I said, we've been going through a move, and this has been terrible as far as just when you're trying to live off the land and you're trying to move at the same time, and renovate a house. That was the biggest problem. It's tough, okay? But people are really trying to put a focus on coming out of the city and coming out of that, and that's good. It's still not run-of-the-mill. You don't hear many people that just live off the land. You're not going to hear of that very often. Not around these parts. Y'all may, but most people work a 9 to 5, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, or, and come home. They work a job and come home and don't have time for this other stuff. So I don't think they would probably be ugly to you. But as far as them accepting you, this lifestyle is different. And it depends on how far you want to take it. If you grow a few tomato plants in your backyard and a few peppers, you'll fit in with everybody else in a small town, okay? If you want to can 1,000 jars of food and turn underground and grow crops and all this other stuff, yeah, you're probably not, you're going to be known as a farmer. You're not going to be known as, hey, we had a little summer backyard garden like everybody else. Most people in the South do have a summer backyard garden, okay? All the people that I know do. A lot of older people. And there again, there's been a lot of younger people trying to pick this up. I think it's wonderful. The women like to do the sourdough bread starter. I've done that. These women like to do lots of stuff with their kids. They're trying to do home cooking and preserving. And there has been such a revival with this that it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. Now, as far as being, you said city folk, and you know nothing about it. I didn't either, okay? I get so aggravated with people acting like it's some kind of clique that you have to do this and you have to have, 40 years of experience to be able to go garden. That is so wrong. I don't care if you're from the city, if you're from Antarctica. I don't care if you're from Central Alabama, like I am. Anybody can grow, okay? Because it's not really you growing it. It's nature. It's the good Lord. Okay. You're not the one doing it. Okay. You're not sprouting the seed. It's out of your hands. Okay. So it's not, most of the time, it's not your fault. But at the same time, it's not your credit for success either. It just is what it is. And thankful when it's great, and you just roll with the punches when it's not, as far as your garden. So that's a huge thing, guys. So I feel what you're saying when you said, will we be accepted? Maybe some people can jump in the comments here. People are nice, people are great, and then you may get in a nest of hornets, and people are just not nice. So I guess it just depends on where you are, the neighbors, and I don't know what your other family would think about it, but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. You can't worry about what people think. You got to be happy for yourself, because what they think does not pay your bills. What they think does not put food on your table, okay? What they think should not conduct your life. And I know it's do as I say, not as I do. I've worried about that for so long, and I finally just let it go. Like, who cares? Who cares? I think it's a maturity thing, and the older I've gotten, the more mature I've gotten, naturally. And the more I just really don't care anymore. I'm going to do my thing and let it be. I know if you're younger, if you're in your 20s, 30s, even your 40s, really, it's going to be, it's not going to be run of the mill. It seems like down here, people give gardening advice, and they're most accepted in like 50s plus. I'm going to say like 60-year-old age range. They're the ones that, I've done it for years. I know, blah, 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 blah. That's going to be the people trying to give you advice. And a lot of times it helps, but a lot of times you cannot listen to what people tell you. Your soil may be totally different than their soil right down the road. Okay. Like, I literally moved a short distance. My soil over here is sandy. I'm used to red clay. A lot of it's just the structure of the ground where it's at. Generally, in this area of Alabama, you're going to have clay. People have their tips and techniques, but I've pushed the limits. I've grown stuff where people said it was impossible, and people throw their 2 cents in and tell you it's impossible, but just go out there and grow anyways. And I saw a video, I'm going to say this. I saw a video on YouTube. Since we've gotten back service, I'm able to see a little bit more, but I still have to go to another location at this point in time and upload videos. So it's just terrible. And then to upload a video, I have to watch something to get it to spin. I figured that out to get it to upload the quickest. So I clicked on a homesteading channel, and they were saying that they weren't growing this year and that they were concerned about growing. I personally, I'm just going to give you my advice. I don't know how much that is floating around out there right now. I'm growing, and I'll grow till I can't grow anymore, till I decide I don't want to, okay? I would not be intimidated by that. That's just my own personal opinion. It can't hurt. If anything, it does good for your soul to get out here, vitamin D, have fun. That's what I'm doing. Seeds are cheap. That's something else I want to tell you, okay? Since you're brand spanking new to this, if you are brand new, what you need to do this year is go buy, it depends on the size of your garden. I would start out pretty small. I would go buy me some tomato transplants, maybe 6, maybe 12. I would buy me some peppers, and the rest I would plant in seed. If you go to a feed store, you may have a co-op, a county exchange, depending on where you're going to be, or just regular feed stores. If you're moving out to rural Georgia, there will be a feed store around you somewhere. I'm not saying a big box store like Tractor Supply. I'm saying a family-owned, small-town feed and seed store. I would get my seeds from there. It's dirt cheap, okay? So even like people advising, like, I just wouldn't garden this year, I just don't feel like it this year, whatever, that's their prerogative. But it can't hurt, because usually for my seed, and we grow a lot, my number one thing is corn. I'm going to spend about $30 on corn seed. My father bought 3 ears of corn the other day, and I think they were 75 cents a piece at our local Piggly Wiggly. If you're from the north, you'll learn what the pig is down here in the south. They were 75 cents a piece. Well, $30 worth of corn will plant you hundreds and hundreds of ears if it makes, okay? So that's just pure profit. That's pure money in the bank, okay? Or pure food in the freezer, however you want to look at it. Everything else is so cheap. It's like $2 and $3 for a pound of contender bush bean seed, maybe 5, maybe 6. Radish seed you could get. He gives me like a cup full of for like $2. Okay, and I mean a literal like 1 cup measuring cup. Kale, watermelon seed, peas, squash. You can get anything. Okay, pole beans, all this stuff. Go to your feed store. That way, if it screws up, you don't have a lot of money involved in it, okay? Instead of buying a $5 seed packet for 10 seeds and trying to start them yourself. I wouldn't do that this year. This year, brand new. If you're going to move sometime this spring, that's what I personally would do. If you're moving in the summer, I'd let it rest, and I might try a fall garden. There again, I would go buy the transplants this first year. I have grown transplants for 5 years now, multiple times a year, usually 3 times a year. I try to do a spring, summer, and fall garden. The fall crops around here are the hardest to start with transplants and to get right. Bethia, that cat is way on off in the next hillside. I see it. It's a black cat, and it's down in the... Oh, well, get you a barn cat if you're new. I'm scared it's going to get run over because it's not too far from the road, so I kind of sit here and watch it, but he's a little predator. It's keeping those snakes away. That's good. I would buy the transplants. The fall crops here in the South are the hardest. What I mean by that is growing cabbage in the fall, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower. That's tough. Carrots is tough, okay? That's what I would do. I would buy me some transplants. That's the worst trouble I've had. Cole crops are what they're called. C-O-L-E, cole crops. They're very hard to grow in the South unless you just hit the right timing and know exactly what you're doing. Summer crops will grow no matter what, okay? Your biggest problem is going to be deer, bar none. Deer is probably going to eat a lot of what you plant, especially if you're planting out in a pasture, and you may need a tractor. That may need to be an investment. You need to factor that in. If you're setting out to buy land just to homestead, you may need to be looking at, well, I may need a smaller piece of land here if I can spend my money over here to get a tractor to work it. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and have 500 acres and you don't have anything to work it, okay? That's what I would do. Me personally, I would be looking at stuff like that. You'll need a tractor to turn the ground if you're planting this kind of stuff. But no, when you plant an acre full of corn, you're going to have pests galore. You're going to have raccoons. You're going to have wind damage. You're going to have hail damage. It storms down here in the South. You're going to have all sorts of stuff, and mainly deer. So just be aware of that kind of stuff. If you move in the fall, I'd let it rest until spring. And I'd get me a good game plan going. Now, you may love to start seeds. You may know about it already. Start them. Do it. But if you're brand spanking new and just know nothing, buy you a couple of tomato plants, buy you a couple pepper plants, learn to can this summer. You may need to buy some vegetables to do it. Go to a farmer's market. You need to learn to can to preserve it. You need to be looking at deep freezers. You need to be looking at mason jars. You need to be looking at a canner. You need those things, especially if anything, I would buy a deep freezer instead of the canning, because canning is an investment. We still buy jars every year. I have thousands of jars. We have to add to it continuously the more that I grow. But it just seems like the deep freezer worked better for us our first year. That's just my take on it, okay? As far as a dehydrator, I've done dehydrated food. That's my least favorite. I would not recommend that to somebody starting out. I just wouldn't personally. Not to have food to cook with. I wouldn't. I'm trying to think of anything else, guys. There's so much to tell you. There's so much to, and we may do this in several parts if I think of other things. Probably my best advice, love the land that you're buying. If you're going to homestead, you're going to want to be there permanently, more than likely, and you're going to have to love it. If you don't love it, you're never going to be happy with it. I hope that you have tried to garden before, or you just know that you want to do this, because if not, I don't want you to make a big move and just be, busted and not like it. I could do this day in, day out. I do. from here on out, and I'm content with it. Now it gets hard, but it's not something I want to give up on anytime soon. This is my passion in life. That's what I found. And animals, guys, they're hard. They're real hard. But you can always downsize whatever you've got. You can always add to it, okay? But just know that whatever animal you get, you're responsible for. It's no different than a child. You are responsible for that life in your hands, whether it be a storm coming, a predator like a possum getting in a chicken coop, or you know, a baby calf needing help being birthed. You have to take care of your own animals. There's not going to be, you know, people to come do it for you. I'm very blessed if they do. There's not a lot of people that will, you know, take care of your stuff. And you got to think about stuff like vacations and all too. Like, hey, I want to go on vacation. What can I do? You know, I hope you've got family nearby that can take care of this stuff. You may have to hire somebody out. You may have to just not go. It's totally different when you start thinking about this. And all the suns went back, so I can do that now. All the things that go along with it. So one other thing back to fall crops, this just dawned on me. In the South, as far as transplants, the coal crops, they're very hard. But what I would do is collards, turnip greens, mustard greens. Those three things you can plant down here and they'll grow till kingdom come, okay? Those three things do well, very well. And a lot of soil types too. You can grow turnip greens for the greens themselves and mustard on rock. You could grow it anywhere. So do that. I hope you heed some of that advice. That's just my own personal opinion, stuff I wish I knew. And guys, last but not least, here's Miss Bloomer. If you followed along, come here, Bloomer. Bloomer, kitty, 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 kitty. Well, she's going in the house. So there's Bloomer right there, if you can see her. She's there's our baby. Yeah, there's Bloomer. Come here, baby. I know y'all wanted to see a video of her, so she's just, it's her home now. She's been out in the pasture with Bethia. So, all right, guys. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. If you have any more questions, put it up under here, and I'll try to think. We've got a steep curve ahead of us as well because we're trying to get into cattle. We've got to fix these fences. That's the first thing, okay? And that'll be kind of my husband's deal. He's the cow guru. I am not. I know nothing about cows except I love cows, okay? I think they're cute. They're pretty. It's a lot of hard work, and he's dealt with this his whole life. So that's the next step that we're going through here. And last but not least, if you do love homesteading, I can promise you this, it'll never be enough, okay? You'll never have enough gardens. You'll never have enough animals. You'll never have enough canned goods on the shelf. You'll never have enough. It's like an itch that you can't scratch if you were that dedicated. It's addicting. You can't get enough of it. If you truly love it, and you'll want to multiply, so get plenty of room to expand. And have more animals, more gardens, because you're going to start out small and it's going to explode if you truly love it. And I hope that works that way for you. I truly do. I hope this video helped you. We'll see you guys next time on Homestead Ranch. Take care.